The warning lights flashed red across every console in the Starship Dock Command Center. Captain Alina Reyes gripped the edge of her station and watched the chaos unfold on the main display screen. 20 alien vessels had appeared from nowhere, their sleek black hulls cutting through space like predators closing in on wounded prey. "We have incoming transmissions from the Keth fleet," Lieutenant Park announced, his voice steady despite the fear that showed in his eyes. "They are demanding immediate surrender of the dock and all ships currently in port." Alina took a deep breath. The Nexus Prime Starship Dock was the most important human facility in this sector of the galaxy. It served as a repair station, trading hub, and safe harbor for over 200 ships at any given time. Right now, nearly that many vessels sat helpless in their berths, their crews caught completely off guard by this surprise attack. "How did they get past our sensor net?" Alina demanded. "Unknown, Captain. They just appeared. No warnings, no advanced detection. It should not be possible." But Alina knew that nothing was truly impossible when it came to the Keth Empire. The insectoid species had been expanding aggressively for the past 50 years, swallowing smaller civilizations and pushing against the borders of the Galactic Alliance. Humans had only been part of the Alliance for 3 decades, still considered newcomers by most standards. The Keth viewed humanity as weak, young, and ripe for conquest. "Get me Admiral Kowalski on the secure channel," Alina ordered, "and tell all dock personnel to begin emergency protocols. We need to get those ships combat ready as fast as possible." The communications officer worked frantically at her station. "Captain, the Keth are jamming long-range communications. I cannot reach Alliance Command. We are on our own." Alina felt the weight of responsibility settle onto her shoulders like a physical burden. She was 38 years old, had served in the Alliance fleet for 15 years, and had never faced anything like this. The dock's defensive capabilities were limited. They had shield generators, yes, and a handful of defensive turrets, but nothing that could stand against 20 Keth warships. "Time until they reach weapons range?" she asked. 7 minutes, Captain." 7 minutes to save hundreds of lives and the most valuable human installation in the sector. Alina looked around at her crew, at their frightened faces and trembling hands. They were looking to her for answers, for hope, for some miracle that would save them all. "Listen to me," she said, her voice cutting through the panic like a knife. "The Keth think we are easy targets. They think humans are soft, that we will roll over and surrender. They are wrong. This dock has been in operation for 12 years. It is our home, our lifeline, our pride, and we will not give it up without a fight." A young ensign near the back of the room spoke up. "Captain, what can we do? We have no warships here, just cargo vessels, passenger liners, and repair crews." Alina smiled grimly. "Then we will make do with what we have. Lieutenant Park, I want you to coordinate with all ship captains currently in dock. Any vessel with weapons, no matter how small, will form a defensive line. Everything else will evacuate through the emergency jump point behind the dock." "The emergency jump point is not large enough for all ships at once," Park reminded her. "Then we buy them time. Cycle through as many as we can while we hold the Keth back." The next several minutes were a blur of activity. Alina watched her crew transform from frightened civilians into determined defenders. Messages flew between the command center and the docked ships. Captains who had been enjoying shore leave suddenly found themselves preparing for battle. Engineers abandoned repair work and rushed to bring weapons systems online. Among the chaos, Alina noticed something unusual. 3 ships in the far section of the dock were not responding to communications. She pulled up their registration data. The vessels belonged to a trading company called Velox Enterprises, registered out of the Centauri system. Nothing about them seemed remarkable, but their silence bothered her. "Lieutenant, any word from the Velox ships?" Park checked his console. "Negative, Captain. No response to our hails." "Send security teams to check on them. I want to know why they are not answering." The Keth fleet was now 5 minutes away. On the main screen, Alina could see the enemy vessels spreading into an attack formation. Their commander was not taking any chances, positioning ships to cut off all escape routes. It was a textbook siege approach, the kind of move you made when you expected easy victory. Alina opened a channel to the dock's defensive control station. "Chief Martinez, what is our weapons status?" "Not great, Captain," came the gruff reply. "We have 12 turrets operational, but half of them were due for maintenance next week. Power output is about 60% of optimal." "It will have to do. Target their lead ships and wait for my command." "Understood." The assembled human vessels were now moving into position. Alina counted 15 ships willing to fight, most of them armed freighters with light weapons designed to fend off pirates. Against Keth warships, they would be outgunned badly, but they were not backing down. "Captain," the communications officer called out. "Incoming message from the Keth fleet commander." "Put it through." The main screen flickered and changed to show an alien face. The Keth resembled giant insects, with compound eyes, mandibles, and armored exoskeletons in shades of dark green and brown. This particular Keth wore the gold markings of a high-ranking officer. Its mandibles clicked together as it spoke, the translation software rendering its words into flat, emotionless English. "Human Station Commander, I am Fleet Lord Zyxtel of the Keth Empire. Your position is hopeless. You have no reinforcements coming. Your defenses are weak. Surrender now and your lives will be spared. Resist and you will all die." Alina stood tall, refusing to show fear. "Fleet Lord Zyxtel, I am Captain Alina Reyes of the Galactic Alliance. This dock and everyone on it are under my protection. We will not surrender. If you want the Nexus Prime, you will have to take it from us." The Keth commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "You humans are foolish. Your species has been in space for barely 2 centuries. You know nothing of true warfare. We have conquered 100 worlds. Your little dock means nothing to us except as a stepping stone to greater conquests. This is your last chance, human. Surrender or die." Alina felt her crew watching her, waiting. She thought about her husband and daughter back on Earth, about all the families represented among the dock's personnel. Then she thought about what surrender would actually mean. The Keth did not take prisoners for kindness. They took slaves. "Fleet Lord, let me tell you something about humans. We are stubborn, we are creative, and we never ever give up. You want this dock, come and take it." She cut the communication. The main screen returned to showing the approaching fleet, 3 minutes to weapons range. "Captain," Security Chief Wang's voice crackled over the internal comm. "We have a situation with those Velox ships. They are not traders. They are military vessels in disguise, and they are transmitting something to the Keth fleet." Alina felt her blood run cold. "Can you stop the transmission?" "We are trying, but they have locked us out of their systems. Captain, I think we have been betrayed." The pieces suddenly clicked together in Alina's mind. The Keth had appeared without warning because someone had given them the codes to bypass the sensor net. Someone had told them exactly when to strike, when the dock would be most vulnerable, and that someone was hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to strike from within. She had been prepared for a battle against enemies outside. Now she faced enemies inside as well. The situation had just become much more complicated. "Wang, neutralize those ships by any means necessary. Do not let them provide any more support to the Keth." "Understood, Captain." Alina turned to her crew. "We have traitors among us. The Keth knew we would be weak today because someone told them. That changes nothing. We still fight. We still hold this line. Everyone understand?" A chorus of determined voices answered her. "Yes, Captain." 2 minutes to weapons range. Alina watched the Keth fleet grow larger on the screen and prepared for the fight of her life. Security Chief Marcus Wang led his team through the narrow corridors of Docking Section 7, weapons drawn and ready. The 3 Velox ships sat in their berths, looking innocent enough from the outside. Standard cargo haulers, the kind you would see in any port across the galaxy. But Wang had been in security long enough to recognize a threat when he saw one. "Spread out," he ordered his team. "Alpha Squad takes the first ship, Beta takes the second. I will handle the third myself with Charlie Squad." "Chief, should we not wait for backup?" asked Officer Chen, a young woman on her first deep space assignment. "No time. Those ships are feeding information to the enemy. Every second we wait, more of our people die. Move fast, stay sharp, and remember your training." Wang's team approached the third vessel, a ship registered as the Velox Dawn. The boarding ramp was sealed, and the hull showed no signs of life, but Wang knew better than to trust appearances. "Jenkins, get that ramp open. Chen, watch our backs." Jenkins was the best tech specialist on Wang's team. He connected his equipment to the ship's external access panel and went to work. Within 30 seconds, he had bypassed the lock. The ramp began to descend with a soft hiss. "Contact!" someone shouted from Alpha Squad's position. Weapons fire erupted across the docking bay. Wang heard screams and the distinctive crack of plasma weapons. "Jenkins, Chen, with me. The rest of you provide cover fire for Alpha Squad." Wang charged up the ramp into the Velox Dawn. The interior was nothing like a cargo ship should be. Military-grade equipment lined the walls. Weapons racks stood ready for action. And at the center of the main compartment, 3 figures worked frantically at a communication console. They were human. "Step away from that console," Wang ordered. "Hands where I can see them." The 3 figures turned. 2 were men in their 30s, hard-faced and dangerous-looking. The third was a woman older, with silver hair and cold eyes. She smiled when she saw Wang's weapon pointed at her. "Chief Wang, I presume," she said calmly. "You are faster than I expected. No matter, the transmission is complete. The Keth have everything they need." "Who are you? Why are you doing this?" "My name is Victoria Chase, and I am doing this because humanity chose the wrong side in this conflict. The Alliance is weak, Chief Wang. Divided. The Keth will win eventually. Better to be on the winning side now than to be conquered later." Wang felt disgust rise in his throat. "You sold out your own species for power." "I sold out nothing. I made a practical decision, something you clearly cannot understand." The 2 men beside Victoria moved, reaching for weapons. Wang fired without hesitation, dropping them both with precise shots. Victoria did not flinch, did not show any emotion at all. "You think killing my associates changes anything? The information is already sent. Your dock is doomed." "Maybe," Wang said, "but you will not live to see it." He advanced toward her, ready to make the arrest. Victoria's hand moved in a blur, pulling something from her pocket. Wang fired again, but she was already moving, throwing herself behind a console. A bright flash filled the room, and then Wang felt himself flying backward as an explosion ripped through the ship. Back in the command center, Captain Reyes watched the battle unfold on multiple screens. The first Keth ships had entered weapons range, and the defensive turrets were doing their best to hold them back. Energy beams lanced across space, shields flared under impacts, and the human freighters moved to intercept enemy fighters. "Turret 7 is down," someone shouted. "Redirect power from Turret 12 to compensate." Alina coordinated the defense with practiced efficiency, but she knew they were losing. The Keth had too many ships, too much firepower. For every fighter they destroyed, 3 more seemed to take its place. "Captain, the freighter Solidarity has taken heavy damage. They are requesting permission to withdraw." "Denied. Tell them to hold position. If they break formation, the Keth will break through the line." It was a cruel order, but Alina had no choice. The evacuation was still ongoing. 50 ships had made it through the emergency jump points so far, but over 100 remained. Every minute bought meant more lives saved. Captain Reyes, Lieutenant Park called out. We are receiving a transmission from Chief Wang. He is alive but injured. The traitors have been neutralized, but there is a problem. What kind of problem? The information they sent to the Keth included our shield frequency modulations. The enemy is already adjusting their weapons to bypass our defenses. Alina closed her eyes for a moment. Shield modulations were constantly shifting, designed to prevent exactly this kind of targeting. But with the exact frequencies, the Keth could punch through like the shields were not there at all. How long until they recalibrate? Based on the data Chief Wang recovered, approximately 4 minutes. 4 minutes? In 4 minutes their shields would become useless. The Keth would tear them apart. Park, I need options. The lieutenant thought quickly. We could randomly change our modulation pattern. It would reduce shield efficiency by half, but the stolen data would become useless. Do it, and tell all ships in our defensive line to do the same. The order went out across the fleet. Alina watched as shield readings fluctuated wildly, settling at roughly 50% effectiveness. It was bad, but it was better than nothing. The battle intensified. A Keth destroyer broke through the freighter line and made a run at the dock itself. Defensive turrets tracked it, firing desperately, but the warship's shields held. It launched a spread of missiles at the main docking structure. Brace for impact. The missiles struck the outer hull. The entire station shook, and alarms screamed from every console. Alina grabbed her station to keep from falling. Damage report. Hull breach in sections 14 through 17. Emergency bulkheads are holding. Casualties reported. Get medical teams moving, and someone take down that destroyer. 3 human freighters converged on the Keth destroyer, overwhelming its defenses with sheer volume of fire. The warship's shields failed, and a final volley tore through its hull. It exploded in a brilliant flash, but the celebration was short-lived. 2 more destroyers were already moving to take its place. Captain, we have lost 6 ships from our defensive line. We cannot hold much longer. Alina knew they were right. The Keth were slowly grinding them down, using their superior numbers and firepower to wear away the human defenses piece by piece. She needed something, some advantage, some trick that could turn the tide. Then she remembered what Victoria Chase had said. The Keth had everything they needed, but did they really? The traitors had given them shield frequencies, yes, but what else? Park, pull up everything we know about the information that was transmitted to the Keth. I want to see exactly what they received. The lieutenant worked his console. Here, Captain. The transmission included shield frequencies, dock layout, ship positions, and our communication protocols. Alina studied the data, looking for something she could use. The Keth knew where their ships were, how to bypass their shields, and how to intercept their communications. It seemed hopeless. But then she saw something. The communication protocols were outdated. They matched the codes humanity had used 6 months ago, before a major security update that changed everything. Victoria Chase had given the Keth old information. Either she did not have access to current protocols, or she had made a mistake. Either way, it was an opportunity. Lieutenant, can we use our current communication protocols to send false information to the Keth? Park's eyes widened as he understood. Yes, if they are listening on the old frequency, they would think they were intercepting real Alliance communications. Then let us give them something to listen to. Start transmitting fake messages about incoming Alliance reinforcements. Make it believable. Include specific ship names, arrival times, and fleet compositions. Captain, that is brilliant. If they believe help is coming, they might pull back. That is what I am counting on. The fake transmissions went out. Alina waited, watching the Keth fleet for any sign that they had taken the bait. For several long minutes, nothing changed. The battle continued, more ships fell, and hope began to fade. Then the Keth began to reposition. 3 of their warships broke off from the attack and moved to defensive positions, clearly preparing to face the non-existent reinforcements. 2 more pulled back to protect their flagship. "It is working," Park exclaimed. But Alina was not celebrating yet. The Keth commander was not stupid. Sooner or later, Fleet Lord Zyxtal would realize there were no reinforcements coming. They needed to make the most of this opportunity while it lasted. All ships press the attack. Focus fire on their remaining frontline vessels. We need to break their formation while they are distracted. The human fleet surged forward. Freed from the overwhelming pressure of the full Keth force, they began to score real victories. 1 enemy destroyer fell, then another. A Keth cruiser lost its engines and drifted helplessly into the crossfire. For the first time since the battle began, Alina felt something like hope. The tide was turning, but Captain Reyes knew it would not last forever. Fleet Lord Zyxtal would soon realize the reinforcements were fake, and when that happened, the Keth would return with renewed fury. She needed a more permanent solution. "Lieutenant Park, how many ships have made it through the evacuation point?" 93, Captain. Approximately 60 remain." "What about the dock's civilian population?" "Most have been moved to the evacuation ships. We have about 2,000 people still on the station, primarily defense personnel and essential crew." Alina nodded. 2,000 lives depending on her decisions, plus the crews of the ships still fighting to protect them. Every choice she made now could mean the difference between life and death for hundreds of people. "Captain," Communications Officer Torres called out, "I am picking up something strange on long-range sensors. There is a ship hiding in the debris field about 50,000 kilometers out." "Geth." "Negative. The signature matches a human vessel. It appears to be the trading ship Mercury Wind, registered to Velox Enterprises." Victoria Chase's organization. Alina felt her jaw tighten. They have a backup ship waiting for them. They plan to escape after completing their mission. "Should we send ships to intercept?" Alina considered it. The Mercury Wind was probably a fast ship, designed for quick escapes. Sending slower freighters after it would be pointless, but leaving it alone meant letting traitors escape to cause more damage elsewhere. Then an idea struck her. "Torres, can you hail that ship without the Keth detecting the transmission?" "I can try using tight beam communications. It would be risky." "Do it, but do not tell them who we are. Pretend to be Victoria Chase checking in." Torres raised an eyebrow but followed orders. She adjusted the communication settings and sent a brief message. Moments later, a response came through. "Mercury Wind here. What happened? We lost contact with Chase 20 minutes ago." Torres looked at Alina, waiting for guidance. The captain took a breath and began to improvise. "This is Agent 12, Alina said, using a generic identifier. "Chase is dead. The mission was compromised, but we have an opportunity. The Keth Fleet Lord wants to meet with our leadership. He is considering a larger alliance. Can you get a secure channel to the Admiral?" There was a long pause. Alina held her breath, hoping the deception would work. "Stand by," the voice replied. "We need to verify your identity." "There is no time for verification. The Keth will only hold their position for another 10 minutes. If we miss this chance, the entire operation falls apart." Another pause. Then, "Understood. We are transmitting coordinates for a secure meeting point. The Admiral will make contact within the hour." The transmission ended. Torres looked at Alina with new respect in her eyes. "What was the point of that, Captain?" "I wanted to know who they report to. Someone higher than Victoria Chase is running this operation, and now I have coordinates that might lead us to them." "But we are in the middle of a battle. We cannot follow up on that now." "No," Alina agreed. "But we will survive this battle, and when we do, we will hunt down every traitor involved in today's attack." Back on the battle lines, the situation was growing critical again. The Keth had realized the reinforcement transmissions were fake. Fleet Lord Zeikstel was reorganizing his fleet, preparing for a final assault that would overwhelm the human defenses once and for all. Security Chief Wang stumbled into the command center, his left arm in a makeshift sling and burns covering half his face. Medical personnel tried to stop him, but he pushed past them. "Captain, I have something you need to see." "Wang, you should be in the medical bay." "Later, this cannot wait." He held up a data chip. "I pulled this from Victoria Chase's body before the ship went down. It contains more information about the Keth attack plans, including something they did not want us to know." Alina took the chip and plugged it into her console. The data appeared on her screen, and her eyes went wide. The Keth flagship has a weakness. Their shield generator has been modified to boost power output, but the modification creates a vulnerability. A precisely targeted strike at these coordinates could cause a cascading failure. "How did the traders know about this?" Park asked. "Because they helped design it," Wang explained. "Velox Enterprises has been selling technology to the Keth for years. They provided the shield modification, and they kept records of its flaws in case they ever needed leverage." Alina stared at the data, her mind racing. If they could destroy the Keth flagship, the rest of the fleet might retreat. Without their commander, the enemy would lose coordination and morale, but reaching the flagship would require getting through the entire Keth formation. "We need a ship fast enough to make a strike run," she said. "Something small and maneuverable that can get through their defenses." "The dock patrol boats," Park suggested. "They are built for speed and agility." "Can they carry enough firepower to exploit this weakness?" Wang nodded slowly. "If we modify their weapons with plasma accelerators from the damaged turrets, they might be able to generate enough focused energy for a penetrating strike." "Do it. Gather whatever engineers we have left and make those modifications as fast as possible." "How long?" 20 minutes, maybe less if we push hard." "We do not have 20 minutes, you have 10. Wang nodded and left the command center, moving with surprising speed for someone in his condition. Alina turned her attention back to the battle. The Keth were pressing hard now, no longer holding back any forces. All 20 ships were engaged, hammering the human defenses from every angle. 2 more freighters had gone down, their crews lost. The defensive turrets were overheating from continuous fire. "Captain, we have lost shield coverage on the east quadrant. They are targeting our fuel storage facilities. Redirect all available power to reinforce that sector, and tell the freighters to tighten formation." But even as she gave the orders, Alina knew they were running out of time. 10 minutes suddenly felt like an eternity. On the dock's maintenance bay, Chief Engineer Yuki Tanaka worked with desperate speed. The patrol boat sat before her, its weapons systems exposed and waiting for modification. Around her, a team of exhausted technicians followed her directions, welding, rewiring, and recalibrating as fast as their hands could move. "The plasma accelerator will not fit in the standard housing," someone complained. "Then cut a new housing. We do not need pretty, we need functional." Yuki had been on the Nexus Prime for 8 years. She had seen the station grow from a small outpost into the vital hub it was today. She had put her heart and soul into maintaining this place, and she was not about to let some alien invaders destroy it. "Connection established," a technician announced. "Power flow is stable." "Good, now integrate the targeting system. We need pinpoint accuracy for this to work." The modifications continued. Sparks flew, tools clattered, and voices shouted over the constant rumble of distant explosions. Time seemed to slow and speed up at random, stretching some moments into hours while compressing others into heartbeats. Finally, impossibly, they finished. The patrol boat looked like a patchwork nightmare, with exposed wires and improvised components covering its hull. But the readings showed everything was functional. "It is ready," Yuki announced over the comm. But this is a one-way trip. The power draw will burn out the engines after firing. Whoever takes this boat will not be coming back. Back in the command center, Alina received the news with grim acceptance. She had known it would come to this. "I will go," she said quietly. "Captain, you cannot," Park protested. "You are needed here. The dock needs its commander." "The dock needs someone willing to do what must be done, and I will not ask anyone else to die when I am not willing to do it myself." The argument continued, but Alina had made her decision. She was already moving toward the exit when a voice stopped her. "Captain Reyes, wait." She turned. A young pilot named Thomas Reed stood at attention. He was barely 25, fresh from the academy, with a wife and newborn daughter back on Earth. "I will go," he said simply. "Reed, no, you have a family." "So do you, Captain, and so do all these people on the dock. Someone has to fly that boat. Let it be someone who can actually make the shot." Alina hesitated. Reed was one of the best pilots on the station. His chances of reaching the Keth flagship were significantly better than hers. "Are you sure?" "Yes, ma'am. I joined the fleet to protect people. This is my chance to protect everyone." Alina felt tears forming in her eyes, but she forced them back. There was no time for emotion now. She stepped forward and put her hand on Reed's shoulder. "Fly fast, shoot straight, and know that we will remember you forever." "Thank you, Captain. Just make sure my daughter knows her father loved her." "I will, I promise." Reed left for the maintenance bay. Alina returned to her station and opened a channel to all human forces. "All ships, this is Captain Reyes. We have a plan. Pilot Thomas Reed is going to make a strike run on the Keth flagship. I need everyone to create a distraction. Hit them hard from every direction. Give Reed the opening he needs." The response was immediate. Every ship, every turret, every weapon the humans had left began firing with renewed fury. The Keth formation wavered under the sudden onslaught. And through the chaos, a single patrol boat emerged from the dock and accelerated toward the enemy fleet. Pilot Thomas Reed had never flown faster in his life. The patrol boat shook and rattled around him as he pushed the engines beyond their limits. Warning lights flashed across his console, but he ignored them all. Only one thing mattered now. The Keth fighters came at him in waves. His modified weapons were designed for a single devastating shot, not extended combat, so he relied on speed and agility to survive. He jinked left, then right, then dove under a destroyer that tried to block his path. "Reed, you have 3 fighters on your tail," Tors reported from the command center. "I see them, trying to shake them." He threw the patrol boat into a series of wild maneuvers, using the debris from destroyed ships as cover. One fighter collided with a piece of wreckage and exploded. The other 2 stayed with him, their weapons scoring glancing hits on his shields. The Keth flagship loomed ahead, massive and imposing. Reed could see the weak point now, a section of hull where the modified shield generator hummed with dangerous energy. The data from Victoria Chase's chip highlighted his target. "Captain, I have visual on the target. Beginning attack run." "Copy that, Reed. All forces, give him everything you have got." The human fleet surged forward in a desperate charge. Ships that should have been retreating threw themselves at the Keth, drawing fire away from Reed's patrol boat. It was magnificent and terrible all at once, a display of courage that would echo through history. Reed pushed the throttle to maximum. His 2 pursuers were gaining, their weapons hammering his rear shields. He could feel the heat building in the cockpit as systems began to overheat. "Shields failing," his computer warned. "Hull integrity at 70%. Just a little further." A plasma bolt struck his starboard engine. The patrol boat lurched violently, nearly sending him into a spin. Reed fought the controls, keeping the ship pointed at his target through sheer force of will. "Hull integrity at 50%. Engine 2 offline." "Almost there." The Keth flagship filled his entire view now. He could see details on its hull, could count the weapon emplacements tracking his approach. In seconds, they would open fire and his small ship would be vaporized. But seconds were all he needed. "This is Pilot Thomas Reed of the Galactic Alliance. To my wife Sarah, I love you. To my daughter Emma, be brave like your father." He triggered the modified weapon. A beam of concentrated plasma energy lanced out from his ship, striking the exact point where the shield generator weakness lay. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Keth flagship tore itself apart from the inside. The modified shield generator could not handle the overload. Energy cascaded through the ship systems, blowing out power conduits and igniting fuel reserves. Secondary explosions rippled across the massive vessel. Its weapons went silent. Its engines died. And then, with a final catastrophic detonation, the flagship ceased to exist. Thomas Reed's patrol boat was caught in the blast wave. His last thought was of his daughter's smile. In the command center, Captain Reyes watched the flagship's destruction with tears streaming down her face. Around her, the crew was cheering, embracing, celebrating their impossible victory. But Alina could only think of the young man who had given everything. The Keth fleet was in chaos. Without their commander, the remaining ships were disorganized and confused. Some tried to continue the attack, but most were already turning to retreat. Within minutes, the enemy was in full flight, their invasion force shattered. "They are running," Park said, disbelief in his voice. "We actually won." Alina wiped her eyes. "Yes, we won, at a terrible cost, but we won." The final evacuation ships made it through the jump point safely. Damage control teams began the long process of repairing the station. Medical crews tended to the wounded. And slowly, impossibly, Nexus Prime began to return to something resembling normal. Hours later, when the immediate crisis had passed, Alina sat alone in her quarters. A glass of whiskey sat untouched beside her. She was thinking about Thomas Reed, about Victoria Chase, about all the lives lost and saved in the space of a single day. Her comm chirped. "Captain, Admiral Kowalski is on the line. The jamming has cleared and long-range communications are restored." "Put him through." Admiral Kowalski's face appeared on her screen. He was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes, the kind of officer who had seen too many battles to be surprised by anything. "Captain Reyes, I have received preliminary reports of your engagement. Remarkable work, truly remarkable." "Thank you, Admiral, but the credit belongs to my crew, and especially to Pilot Thomas Reed, who made the ultimate sacrifice. His name will be honored throughout the Alliance. But Alina, there is more to discuss. The data you recovered from the traders points to a larger conspiracy. Velox Enterprises was just one piece of a network that has been selling information to the Keth for years." "I suspected as much, sir. The coordinates you tricked out of their backup ship. They lead to a space station in the Outer Rim, a place called Haven Point. We believe it serves as the headquarters for this entire operation." Alina felt her exhaustion fade, replaced by cold determination. "What do you need from me, Admiral?" "Rest first. You have earned it. But in 1 week, I want you to lead an operation to Haven Point. Find the people responsible for today's attack and bring them to justice." "It would be my honor, sir." The Admiral nodded. "One more thing. The Keth will regroup eventually. Today's defeat hurt them badly, but they will not forget. We need to be ready for whatever comes next." "We will be, Admiral. Today proved something. Humans may be newcomers to the galaxy, but we are not weak. We fought against impossible odds, we faced betrayal from within, and we still won. The Keth underestimated us. So did the traders. That was their mistake." "Well said, Captain. Get some rest. Your next mission awaits." The screen went dark. Alina finally took a sip of her whiskey, letting the burn warm her from the inside. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new enemies, new battles to fight. but for now she allowed herself to feel proud. The Nexus Prime starship dock still stood. Hundreds of ships had escaped to safety, and humanity had proven once again that they would never surrender. She raised her glass in a silent toast. To Thomas Reed, to all who fell today, we will not forget. Outside her window, the stars continued their eternal dance. And somewhere among them, the enemy was licking their wounds and wondering how a species so young had defeated them so completely. They would learn. Humanity always found a way. The memorial service was held 3 days after the battle. Every person remaining on Nexus Prime gathered in the main concourse, a vast open space normally used for trade shows and diplomatic functions. Today, it served a more solemn purpose. Captain Alina Reyes stood at the front of the assembly, dressed in her formal Alliance uniform. Behind her, a large screen displayed the names and faces of all 73 people who had died defending the dock. Thomas Reed's image occupied the center, his young face smiling with the confidence of someone who had never expected to become a hero. "We gather today to honor the fallen," Alina began, her voice carrying across the silent crowd. "Men and women who gave their lives so that others might live. They did not ask for this battle. They did not seek glory or fame. They simply did what humans have always done when faced with impossible odds. They stood their ground." She paused, looking out at the faces before her. Engineers who had worked through the night to repair damaged systems, medical staff who had treated the wounded, ordinary people who had become extraordinary when circumstances demanded it. "I want to tell you about Thomas Reed. He was 25 years old. He had been married for 2 years. He had a daughter named Emma who was born just 6 months ago. He volunteered for a mission he knew he would not survive because he believed that some things are worth dying for." A woman in the front row was crying softly. Alina recognized her as Sarah Reed, Thomas's widow. She had arrived on an emergency transport just yesterday, needing to be here, needing to say goodbye. "Thomas asked me to tell his daughter that her father loved her, but I want to tell her more than that. I want her to know that her father saved hundreds of lives, that his sacrifice meant something, that he died a hero in every sense of the word." Alina stepped down from the podium and walked to where Sarah sat. She knelt in front of the grieving woman and took her hands. "Your husband was the bravest man I ever knew, and I promise you, on my life and my honor, that his sacrifice will not be forgotten. Emma will grow up knowing exactly who her father was." Sarah nodded through her tears. "Thank you, Captain. He believed in you. He believed in the Alliance. He believed that what he was doing mattered." "It did matter. It matters more than I can possibly express." The memorial continued for another hour. Other speakers shared their memories of the fallen. Stories of courage, friendship, and sacrifice filled the air. When it finally ended, people lingered, not wanting to return to the ordinary world just yet. Admiral Kowalski had arrived for the ceremony, bringing with him a full battle group that now patrolled the space around Nexus Prime. He approached Alina after the crowd had mostly dispersed. "That was well done, Captain. Your people needed to hear those words." "I meant every one of them, sir." "I know you did. That is why you are the right person for what comes next." He handed her a data pad. "Operation Clean Sweep. We are going after Haven Point in 4 days. You will have command of a task force, 6 ships plus your ground assault team." Alina studied the plans. Haven Point was well defended, located in a remote region of space far from any Alliance patrol routes. Getting there undetected would be challenging. Taking the station would be even harder. "Do we know how many people are involved in this conspiracy?" "Intelligence estimates suggest the network has operatives on at least 30 Alliance worlds. Haven Point is the nerve center, where the leadership coordinates everything. Cut off the head and the body dies. Or at least becomes much easier to hunt down." "Exactly." Alina thought about Victoria Chase, about the cold smile on her face as she explained why she had betrayed her own species. There were more people like her out there, people willing to sell out humanity for power or profit or some twisted ideology. I will need my best people for this, she said. Security Chief Wang, Chief Engineer Tanaka, Lieutenant Park, they have proven themselves. Done anyone else? I want to recruit some of the civilians who helped during the battle. There were freighter captains, dock workers, and ordinary people who showed incredible courage. They deserve a chance to finish what they started. The Admiral considered this. Unconventional, but I will allow it. Just make sure they understand what they are signing up for. They will, sir. These people fought for their home. They will fight to make sure this never happens again. 4 days later, Elena's task force departed from Nexus Prime. 6 ships moved in tight formation, their crews trained and ready for battle. Among them were professional soldiers and civilians alike, united by a common purpose. The journey to Haven Point took 3 days. Elena spent the time reviewing intelligence, planning attack strategies, and getting to know her new team. Chief Wang's burns were healing well, though he would carry scars for the rest of his life. Chief Engineer Tanaka had volunteered without hesitation, bringing a team of technicians who could disable any security system they encountered. Most surprising was the presence of Marcus Chen, the young freighter captain whose ship had been one of the first to join the defensive line. He had lost half his crew in the battle but had volunteered anyway. Why? Elena asked him during a planning session. Because running cargo routes does not seem important anymore, he replied. I spent 10 years hauling goods from one port to another, thinking that was enough. Then I watched people die to protect strangers, and I realized I had been wasting my life. This mission might kill you. I know, but at least I will die doing something that matters. Elena could not argue with that logic. She felt the same way herself. On the morning of the assault, Elena gathered her team for a final briefing. The Haven Point station hung in space before them, a sprawling complex hidden in an asteroid field. Sensor scans showed heavy defenses, multiple weapon platforms, and at least 200 people aboard. Our objective is simple, Elena explained. Capture the station leaders and recover all data related to their operations. We want prisoners and intelligence, not bodies. But if they force our hand, we respond with overwhelming force. Wang stepped forward. Alpha Team will secure the command center. Beta Team handles communications and prevents any distress signals. Gamma Team sweeps the living quarters for targets of interest. What about their defenses? Someone asked. Chief Tanaka's team will disable the weapon platforms from outside while we make our approach. By the time we reach docking range, they should be blind and toothless. The assault began precisely on schedule. Tanaka's technicians worked with surgical precision, cutting power to defensive systems one by one. The enemy knew something was wrong, but they could not figure out what until it was too late. Elena led Alpha Team through the station's corridors, moving with deadly efficiency. Resistance was sporadic. Most of the station's occupants were administrators and technicians, not soldiers. They surrendered quickly when faced with armed Alliance troops. The command center was another matter. A dozen armed guards had barricaded themselves inside, determined to destroy the evidence of their crimes. Elena could hear them shouting, threatening to blow up the entire station rather than be captured. Chief options. Wang studied the door. Reinforced steel, magnetic locks. We could breach with explosives, but that would give them time to execute their threat. There has to be another way. Tanaka's voice crackled over the comm. Captain, I found something. There is a maintenance shaft that leads directly into the command center. It is tight, but someone small could fit through. Elena looked at her team. Most were too large for such a tight space, but there was one person who might make it. I will go, said Officer Chen, Wang's young protege. I can fit. It is dangerous, Alina warned. You will be alone in there. I know, but someone has to do it. History seemed to be repeating itself. Another young person volunteering for a dangerous mission. Alina hesitated, remembering Thomas Reed. But Chen was not asking permission. She was already moving toward the maintenance shaft, determination written on her face. "Give me 5 minutes," she said, then breached the door. 5 minutes later, the command center doors exploded inward. Alina led her team through the smoke, weapons ready. But the expected resistance never came. The guards lay unconscious on the floor, and Chen stood in the middle of the room with a satisfied smile. "They never saw me coming," she said. The conspiracy's leaders were among those captured. Alina found herself face to face with a man named Alexander Stone, the so-called admiral that Victoria Chase had reported to. He was older than she expected, with white hair and a distinguished bearing that seemed completely at odds with his crimes. "You think this changes anything," Stone said as he was led away in restraints. "The Keth will win eventually. Humanity is too weak, too divided, too naive to survive in this galaxy." "You are wrong," Alina replied. "We are stronger than you know, and we will never stop fighting for what is right." Stone laughed bitterly. "Idealism, it will be the death of your species." "Maybe, but at least we will die on our feet, not on our knees." The operation was a complete success. The conspiracy's leadership was captured, their data recovered, and their network exposed. In the weeks that followed, Alliance authorities arrested dozens of operatives across multiple worlds. The threat was not eliminated entirely, but it had been severely damaged. Alina returned to Nexus Prime as a hero, but she refused all offers of promotion, all attempts to transfer her to more prestigious assignments. Her place was here, at the dock she had defended, among the people who had become her family. 6 months later, she stood in her office and watched the station come alive with activity. Ships filled the berths, traders haggled in the marketplaces, engineers performed their endless maintenance routines. Life went on, as it always did. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Sarah Reed entered, carrying a small child in her arms. Emma had grown so much in the past half-year, her eyes bright and curious like her father's. "Captain Reyes, I wanted to thank you again for everything." Alina smiled and crossed the room to meet them. "How are you holding up?" "Some days are harder than others, but I am managing. Thomas would want me to be strong for Emma. He would be proud of both of you." Sarah set Emma down, and the little girl toddled across the floor, examining everything with the fearless curiosity of youth. Alina watched her and felt something warm bloom in her chest. This was why they fought. This was what they were protecting, not just structures and territories, but the future itself. The next generation, who would inherit whatever world the current generation left behind. "Sarah, I want you to know something. The Alliance is establishing a scholarship in Thomas's name. Any child of a fallen soldier can receive free education through the academy. Emma will never have to worry about paying for her future." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "That is incredibly generous." "It is the least we can do. Thomas gave everything for us. We owe his family everything in return." After Sarah left, Alina returned to the window. The stars beckoned, full of mystery and danger and possibility. Humanity had only begun to explore the galaxy. There would be more battles ahead, more enemies to face, more sacrifices to make. But they would face it all together. That was the human way, not to fight alone but to stand shoulder to shoulder with others who shared their values. Not to seek conflict but to meet it head-on when it came. Not to surrender, no matter how hopeless the odds. The Keth would attack again someday. Alina was certain of it. But when they came, humanity would be ready. They had learned from the Battle of Nexus Prime, had grown stronger and wiser and more united. And they would never, ever give up. Captain Alina Reyes straightened her uniform, took a deep breath, and went back to work. There was always more to do, more to protect, more to fight for. That was the burden and the privilege of command. She would carry it with pride, for as long as she lived.